Good afternoon, Mr. Odell.
Good afternoon.
I'm doing good. I'm going to read you your rights, and I just want you to listen to me while I read your rights. But if you have any questions when I'm done, you feel free to ask me, and I'll be glad to answer at that time, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Right now, I just want you to listen to me. Kind of bear with me because I got this mask
Yes,
on.
ma'am.
Okay, you've been charged with a criminal offense, and if you're found guilty, you're facing serious consequences, which may include payment of a fine, loss of your driver's license, and the possibility of a jail sentence. In addition, you may face increased penalties for later convictions. Loss of your right to possess a firearm or ammunition, and your immigration status will be affected. You have important constitutional rights, including the right to representation by an attorney, but you may lose these rights or waive them if you do not act to protect these rights. You have the right to hire an attorney to represent you in every case. If you cannot afford an attorney, you may be eligible for a free attorney. If you want a determination made as whether you qualify for a free lawyer, then it is your obligation to be screened. If you do not hire an attorney or go to be screened, then you may be found to waive your rights to an attorney at your trial. You also have the right to represent yourself. However, you should be aware that self-representation can be dangerous. For example, there may be certain factual or legal defenses to your charges that you are not aware of, or legal issues related to the conduct of your trial or guilty plea that an attorney would know how to preserve for an appeal. If you exercise your rights to proceed without a lawyer, then you are responsible for complying with all applicable rules of court, including rules of evidence, procedure rules, and proper behavior before the judge and or jury. If convicted of the charges that are filed against you and you're ordered to pay a fine, you may request a reasonable scheduled payment plan to pay the fine. It is your obligation to keep up with your trial date and to obtain an attorney, either by hiring one or being screened and found eligible for a court-appointed attorney prior to your trial date. If you do not appear at your trial with your attorney, you may be deemed to waive your rights to have an attorney represent you. You are required to keep the courts notified of any change of address until the completion of the case. Good afternoon again, Mr. Odell. My name is Judge Warren, and this is your bond hearing. I am not here to determine whether you're guilty or you're innocent. I'm only here to set your bond for what I have in front of me this afternoon, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
You have the right and the obligation to be present at your trial, but your trial may proceed in your absence if you fail to attend. Failure to appear in court as required may result in additional criminal charges, as well as any loss of any posted bond.
Yes, ma'am.
If the charges that are brought against you is discharged, dismissed, null pros, or you're found not guilty, you can get these charges expunged off your record.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you have a right to a jury trial. Your case is going to general session, so you have a right to a preliminary hearing. Okay? If you are in another facility, if you're in a hospital, medical or mental, it is still your obligation to let the courts know where you are. You are to remain on good behavior while you're out on bond, and you cannot leave the state without the court's permission. Okay? With that being said, I have you here on one warrant today for a hit and run. Duties of a driver involved in an accident with great bodily injury. This charge carries a maximum penalty of 10 years in prison. Not to say that that's what you'll get, but that is the maximum penalty for this charge, okay? Your first court appearance is going to be August the 20th at 9 o'clock. Across the street, 528 Monument Street, upstairs. That will be your first appearance.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay? Did you understand the rights that I read to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm going to get you to sign it and date it. Said I read it, you understand it, and I'm going to give you a copy of anything that I get you to sign for me today, okay? Mr. Odell, you wish for me to screen you today for a free attorney?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
You do. Okay. It's two people. Is that including you? You
Yes,
make
ma'am.
two people in your home?
Just me and
Just you?
my girlfriend.
Okay. All right. looking at your income, Mr. Odell, you do not qualify for a free attorney and make a little bit too much. But if your income changes, you still have the right to reapply, okay? You're going to go across the street, 528 Monument Street, once you're out, and go to room 114. It might be a $40 fee at that time, but if your income changes, you still have that right, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
And regardless, you still have a right to an attorney. If you can get a paid one, you still have a right, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
You also have a right, and let's get through this paperwork, and then I'm going to let you speak, okay?
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
You have a right to a preliminary hearing. A preliminary hearing is not a trial, but it's a hearing where the officer shows that there's enough probable cause to take this on up to general sessions. If you want that hearing, you're going to have 10 days from today to fill out this form and turn it back into the courts, okay? And you'll get that before you leave. Okay. All right. Now, did you understand everything that I just said? Your right to a jury trial, your right to a preliminary hearing, and your right to reapply for a free attorney if you wish, and where to go, and your court date being August the 20th at 9 o'clock. You understood all that?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to get you to initial the highlighted areas and sign it for me on the back, and I'm going to give you a copy of it, okay? Mr. Odell, I have the trooper here with me, and I want to hear what he's got to tell me today. And then I have the victim's advocate, and I want to hear what she's got to tell me. And then I'm going to allow you to speak. But when they're speaking, I'm going to request that you don't say anything. But when it's your turn, I'm going to let you tell me what you want me to know, too, as well, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Trooper?
Yeah, Judge, I'm just briefly review the facts of the case, and then review Mr. Odell's criminal history. On the 19th June 2021, here in the county of Greenwood, on Secondary 38, referred to as West Main Street Extension in the town of Ware Shoals, the Highway Patrol was dispatched to a collision involving a pedestrian. The trooper arrived. Pedestrian was located in the ditch along the roadway of West Main Street. Observed a debris field. Through the investigation, they were able to collect multiple parts. A vehicle profile was generated, and a search began looking for a Kia Optima, dark gray, dark blue in color. As a result of our investigation of searching for the vehicle, we were able to locate Mr. Odell and Mr. Odell's vehicle. Our collision reconstruction unit mate was also involved. Interviewed Mr. Odell. As a result of the investigation and the interview, an arrest was made for a hit and run with great bodily injury. The victim in this case was found to Mr. Waller. Mr. Timothy Waller was walking west on Secondary 38, West Main Street and roadway, when Mr. Odell's vehicle struck him with the left front and left side, resulting in great bodily injury to Mr. Odell. He was transported by Greenwood EMS to Self Regional Hospital, where he is there currently being treated for his injuries. And as a result of that, he's going to have several surgeries for those injuries. Reviewing over his criminal history, Mr. Odell's got several charges. He was convicted of another leaving the scene of the accident. Conviction date was October of 2016. Also convicted of giving false information, October of 2016. He has a weapons charge where he was convicted on May of 2018. And then several other charges that have resulted in either a non-conviction or non-process in this case.
Okay. I just want to ask one question. You said that he had a prior hit and run. Was that
Yes,
in
ma'am.
what year again?
That was in 2016, October 27th was the court date or the conviction date for it. It was for leaving the scene of an accident, an unattended vehicle.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Is that all you needed to
And
do?
the offense date on that was October 2nd of 2016.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And then also our victim's advocate representing the Highway Patrol and the Department of Public Safety, Ms. Sarah Co.
Okay.
Would like to speak on behalf of the
Yes,
family.
ma'am.
Thank you, Your Honor. My name is Sarah Co. I'm the victim advocate with the South Carolina Highway Patrol. Timothy Waller is currently hospitalized at Self. Speaking with his mother, who is currently with him, he had to undergo a 4 to 5 hour long surgery to get a rod put in his leg and his arm. There's a potential for another surgery down the line in the future, depending on how his body accepts the one that was done previously. And then there's extensive rehab in his future afterwards for him to recover from this accident. After speaking with his mother and the family, they would like bond to be denied. Understanding that that might not be a possibility, they've asked for a high cash surety bond along with the GPS monitoring and a no contact order. From what First Sergeant Brown has said, the defendant has an extensive criminal history along with a prior leaving the scene. I would consider that being a flight risk and a danger to the community. And on behalf of the South Carolina Highway Patrol, I would also ask that his bond be denied, or if you are inclined, it be a high cash surety bond along with the GPS monitoring and a no contact order for the family.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Odell, you heard what I just heard. Do you have anything that you want to tell me before I set your bond, sir?
Yes, ma'am, I would. The 2016 incident of leaving the scene was my vehicle, which it wasn't, couldn't move. Nothing worked on it. So I left it on the side of the road to go to a local gas station, and it was just an unattended vehicle. And the other, the gun charges, that's just when I was young, and it was, I had possession of it in my car of my uncle's gun, which didn't have no one owned it. And the trooper last night, we talked, and they said they had evidence, and they knew that Mr. Walker was all night was trying to kill himself. Upon me driving up the road, he lunged at my car, and I tried to stop and help Mr. Walker. And when I got to him, he cut me.
He cut you?
Yes, ma'am. He wouldn't. I feared for my life, so I went to the store and called the police. And the EMS, instead of staying at the scene, and that's where they took me in. I was at the scene. I was at my father's house. My father's the one who saved him. And Mr. Walker is also my cousin.
Oh, so you know him?
Yes, ma'am. And like I say,
When you say he cut you where?
he had just left my cousin's house, which I believe they drank together or something. My cousin had just told me that they had to fight him to get him out of the yard. He kept on trying to start something to get bodily harm against him.
Okay.
And then I go up the road to go leave my cousin's house, and he lunges at my car. They warned me, and my father also warned me that do not go up the hill, because Tim, they call him Tim, do not, because he's out in the middle of the road, walking, throwing bottles at cars so they won't hit him.
Okay.
And the officer told me last night that they found him for the collision at fault, because his alcohol level was 3 times over the limit. And there's nothing to justify why I shouldn't have stayed at that scene, but I did fear for my life. I didn't know if he was able to get up. I didn't know if he only had a knife or anything else.
Okay.
And there was no intention.
What brought you to Greenwood County? Because I see you're from Belton.
Yes, ma'am. My grandmother lives on Davis Street in Ware Shoals. My mother lives on Fleming Street in Ware Shoals. My dad lives right there.
So you were there visiting family?
Yes, ma'am. And I was leaving, and a family member informed me that our cousin was drunk. It's just the usual. He's always around the whole neighborhood up there causing problems, and nobody pays attention because he's got a bad problem.
Okay.
And
Well, my concerns with that is that you left him in a ditch. Now, remember I told you in the beginning, I'm not here to determine
Yes, ma'am.
whether you're guilty or innocent. Understand?
Yes, ma'am.
It's just what I have in front of me and what I've heard. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
So, you don't have to plead your case to me today.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I just figured that's what needed to be here, because the other officer, other than him, talked to me. I didn't talk to him last night. I talked to 2 other officers, and
Okay.
got video record.
And you do realize that Mr. Waller, is it Waller,
Yes, ma'am.
is in serious condition. He has to have a lot of surgeries and stuff.
Yes, ma'am. He actually contacted my father and was like,
What I'm going to request from you, Mr. Odell, is not to have any contact,
no, ma'am.
none whatsoever.
Whatever
Okay,
you-
and that's going to be put in your bond.
Yes, ma'am. I
No
haven't
contact.
I haven't contacted you.
I am going to set you a bond today,
Yes, ma'am.
but it's going to be high, okay, because of the circumstances. I'm going to set your bond in the amount of $100,000 cash or surety, and I'm going to require that be posted before you are released. Do you understand? And not only that, the situation is because you're not from Greenwood County. That's another thing. Yes.
Originally, I'm from Wearshow, South Carolina. I went to Wearshow High School,
Okay.
and I've been in Belton for 2 years. I just changed my
Your address?
address at the DMV in Anderson when I had to get the gold star on, or I was supposed to get the gold star to get in
The real ID.
Yes, ma'am.
Gotcha.
And that made me change because I had moved to Belton.
Okay.
So-
Yeah. If that's where you live, that's where, it should be. And the fact that you do live in Belton, is one reason why your bond is so high. And another, the seriousness
Yes, ma'am. I understand.
of what happened is why it's so high.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's what I'm requesting. Do you have any questions?
Is there any way I can get my family to the window? I can talk to them.
That would be up to the sergeant here once this is over.
I apologize. He told me that.
Okay. It will be up to him.
So is it like the whole 100,000 to get out of jail?
Cash or surety. Do you understand what that means? That means $100,000 cash, or your family can get a bondsman
okay.
to post a percentage of it.
And how
okay.
Much, how much would the percentage?
Depends on what bondsman you get.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
I think the most you're looking at is 10,000. That's the most.
Okay.
10,000.
You got any more questions for me?
But with me knowing the extent of, like I said, there's no way to justify me leaving the scene. I fear for my
And
life.
that was my concern.
Yes, ma'am. And you're just going off of what's in front of you,
That's
and that's your job. But like I say, I would like to pull up on that preliminary hearing when I do get out.
Absolutely. You got 10 days from today to fill that form out. If
And
you
then-
happen to be here, fill it out and give it to the officer, and he'll make sure that I get it. Okay?
Because the dude, he was very drunk from the fact of 5 people telling me that he'd been trying to get bodily harm. My father informed me not to come up there, and just
Sometimes I guess, a spur of the moment thing. When that happened, you should have contacted law enforcement immediately.
immediately I
And
was
you
on.
should not have left.
Yes, ma'am, I understand. I
You
was
understand?
at stopping at 0.5 miles away, and I went back to the scene while everyone was up there.
Okay, this is going to be your bond paperwork. I'm going to need you to sign it, date it, and make sure that I have your address and phone number correct. If it's not, scratch through it and please put the correct information on there. And I need you to initial it for me on the front, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Signs. Yeah, just where it comes out, not change. It's been nice being right here.
Okay. All right. If you don't have any other questions, we are done, Mr. Odell. Good luck to you.
Thank you.